The story begins with heat. Heat between bodies, between glances, and in the air itself. Tenoch and Anna, two teenagers clinging to the fleeting intensity of youth, are wrapped in each other's arms. She's leaving soon, bound for Italy, and the knowledge of this departure hangs between them, making every touch electric. Tenoch, with the naive bravado of an 18-year-old, asks Anna to promise she won't sleep with anyone else while she's away. He vows the same. In his mind, it feels like love, but it's little more than desperation. Nearby, Tenoch's best friend, Julio, mirrors this intimacy with his girlfriend, Cecilia. Cecilia and Anna will be traveling together, leaving the boys untethered, with nothing but time and temptation to guide them. At the airport, the couples part ways, the girls boarding their plane, the boys left behind. Tenoch and Julio are opposites in almost every way. Tenoch, the privileged son of a corrupt politician, swims in wealth and opportunity, while Julio comes from a middle-class family with liberal ideals. But their differences only make their bond stronger, forged in the reckless pursuits of adolescence. In the absence of their girlfriends, the boys fall into their usual rhythm of weed, jokes, and idle fantasies. Days bleed into nights until the monotony is broken by a family wedding. There, amidst the clinking glasses and festive chaos, they meet her. Luisa, a woman who doesn't belong in their world but disrupts it entirely. She is beautiful, poised, and carries an air of sadness that neither boy can comprehend, but both are drawn to like moths to a flame. Luisa is married to Tenoch's cousin, Jano, but this fact only seems to embolden the boys. They flirt shamelessly, intoxicated by her presence. She humors them, even revealing she plans to visit a beach soon. Sensing an opportunity to impress her, Tenoch spins a lie about a hidden paradise called Heaven's Mouth, a secluded beach of unimaginable beauty. The boys invite her along, never expecting her to accept. But life isn't predictable, especially not for Luisa. That night, she receives a call from her husband, Jano. He is apologetic but drunk, confessing infidelity in a way that feels both careless and cruel. The news cuts deep, and after hanging up, Luisa dissolves into tears. In the morning, she calls Tenoch and Julio, asking if she can join them on their trip. The boys are stunned, but quickly agree. The plan, if it can even be called that, comes together in a blur. They borrow a car, pack haphazardly, and set out with Luisa, unaware that the road ahead will change everything. The drive is filled with chatter, the boys showing off, eager to win Luisa's approval. They talk about their girlfriends, their sexual exploits, and their dreams, their words brimming with the arrogance of youth. Luisa listens, her smile at once kind and knowing. She sees through their bravado, but she doesn't call them out. Instead, she observes, letting their words unravel who they really are. That first night, they stop at a hotel, the air between them charged with tension. Luisa retreats to her room, but the boys, driven by a mix of curiosity and jealousy, peek through the door. What they see isn't what they expected. Luisa isn't undressing or waiting for them. She's sitting alone, crying. For a moment, they are disarmed. Then the shame sets in, though neither boy says a word. The next day, the journey continues. The conversations grow deeper, more personal. Luisa opens up about her past, sharing the story of her first love, a man she once dreamed of building a life with, taken from her too soon in a tragic accident. It's the first crack in the armor she wears, the first glimpse of the pain she carries. The boys, still fumbling through their own emotions, don't know how to respond. Instead, they change the subject, redirecting the spotlight away from her grief and back onto themselves. Back at another hotel, Luisa makes a decision. She calls Jano and leaves him a voicemail. Her voice is steady, firm. She tells him it's over, that she won't be coming back. It's a moment of clarity, a reclaiming of power. After hanging up, she retreats again to her room, but this time, she's interrupted. Tenoch knocks, asking for shampoo. He's wrapped in a towel, his confidence outstripping his sense. Luisa doesn't hesitate. She asks him to remove the towel, and he does. What follows is inevitable. Julio sees it, His jealousy festers, unspoken but visible in every glance. Later, when Tenoch comes to find him, Julio reveals a secret he's been carrying. He admits to sleeping with Tenoch's girlfriend, a confession that lands like a slap. Tenoch is furious. The betrayal cuts deeper than either boy expected, and the bond between them begins to fray. Their anger simmers into the next day, barely contained as they continue driving. Luisa notices, of course. She isn't blind to their resentment, their unspoken rivalry. When the tension reaches its peak, she intervenes, seducing Julio. It isn't about love or even desire. It's about control, about leveling the playing field. But the act only stirs the pot further. Tenoch, watching from the rearview mirror, seethes in silence. The journey is no longer about the beach. It's about something else, something neither boy can articulate, but both feel deeply. The car becomes a battleground, their words sharp and cruel, each confession another blow to their fragile friendship. Luisa watches it all unfold, the boys tearing each other apart in their desperate bid for her attention. As the miles roll on, the fights become louder, uglier. Luisa finally snaps. "You're like dogs," she says, her voice cutting through the tension. The boys fall silent, chastised but unrepentant. They don't know how to stop, how to undo the damage they've done. The air was heavy with unresolved tension, and the heat of the road seemed to stretch endlessly before them. The confessions between Tenoch and Julio, confessions of shared betrayals and reckless intimacies, hung like a storm cloud over their journey. The friendship they had once believed unshakable was now exposed as fragile, riddled with envy and competition. And Luisa was at the center of it all. She saw through their boyish antics and insecurities, but she didn't judge. She carried her own scars, secrets she hadn't shared, and knew the weight of trying to outrun pain. As the evening crept in, the car stalled in the sand, stranded on an unpaved road leading to nowhere. They spent the night in the car, the silence between them as thick as the humid air. Morning brought light, and with it, a surprise. They awoke to find themselves on the edge of an untouched beach, a stretch of sand that seemed to exist outside of time. The waves lapped lazily at the shore, indifferent to their presence. Julio and Tenoch set up camp while Luisa let the sun warm her skin, her mind momentarily free of the burdens she carried. A local fisherman arrived with his family, their presence as natural as the tide. They offered the trio food and a tour of the area, their generosity simple and pure. The next day, the fisherman took them to a beach he called Heaven's Mouth. When the boys heard the name, they burst into laughter. What had started as a joke, a lie to impress Luisa, had become a reality. For a moment, they were carefree again, two friends rediscovering the bond they thought they had lost. The sunlight danced on the water, and for the first time in days, it felt like the world might be whole again. But reality has a way of creeping in. That night, they returned to their campsite to find it destroyed, ransacked by pigs. The chaos mirrored the unraveling of their journey, the fleeting moments of joy giving way to the inevitable confrontation of their truths. They spent the night in the village with the fisherman's family, the warmth of their hosts contrasting sharply with the cold distance between the boys. As the alcohol flowed, the night took on a feverish intensity. Luisa made a final call to her husband, saying goodbye not just to him, but to the life she had once known. She hung up the phone and let the tears come, her sobs mixing with the sound of the sea outside. Later, the three of them began drinking heavily, their inhibitions dissolving with every passing hour. The boys' confessions came pouring out, each one more cutting than the last. Tenoch admitted to sleeping with Julio's girlfriend repeatedly. Julio retaliated with a casual, almost cruel mention of being intimate with Tenoch's mother. The betrayals piled up, a twisted monument to their fractured friendship. And then Luisa stepped in. She played music, and they danced, the movements unsteady, their bodies swaying in a haze of alcohol and emotion. The dance became something else, a release, a surrender. Luisa took them both to her room, and the lines between them blurred. What followed was raw, desperate, and deeply human. Tenoch and Julio, once rivals, kissed as if trying to erase the wounds they'd inflicted on each other. The night ended in a tangle of limbs and a silence that carried more weight than words ever could. When morning came, the light was harsh and unforgiving. Tenoch and Julio woke naked, the memory of the night before still fresh, their shame palpable. Tenoch stumbled outside to vomit, his body rejecting the chaos of the previous hours. They knew it was time to leave. The car, borrowed and overdue, needed to be returned, and their parents would be waiting for them, clueless about the journey they had taken. Luisa, however, stayed behind. She told them she wanted more time at the beach, her tone gentle but firm. There was no arguing with her. This was her choice, her moment. A year passed, and the world shifted. Politics changed, friendships faded, and life continued its relentless march forward. Tenoch and Julio ran into each other by chance at a cafe. The conversation was strained, polite but devoid of the warmth they once shared. It was clear they had become strangers, bound only by the memory of a summer that felt like a lifetime ago. During that meeting, Tenoch told Julio the truth about Luisa. She had died, not long after their trip. Cancer, he said, she had known all along, carried the knowledge of her own mortality with her on their journey. It was why she had come, why she had chosen to spend her last days chasing the fleeting beauty of life rather than succumbing to the weight of her illness. Julio said nothing, his silence heavy with regret and understanding. Luisa's death marked the end of something far greater than their trip. It was the end of innocence, the end of believing that life could be navigated without consequence. The boys left the cafe, each walking in opposite directions, knowing they would never see each other again. In the end, the trip wasn't about the beach or the lies they told to get there. It wasn't even about the bonds they broke or the truths they uncovered. It was about the fleeting nature of youth, the intensity of living fully in the face of loss, and the way life forces us to grow, whether we're ready or not. Luisa had shown them that, not with words but with her actions, with her grace, her courage, and her quiet acceptance of life's impermanence. As Tenoch and Julio faded into the crowds of the city, the memory of that summer lingered. It was a reminder of the fragility of human connection and the beauty of a moment that, though fleeting, could never truly be lost.